find the whole Jesus thing just a little bit weird? Like, did you ever think it was a bit weird that we all used to dress up as livestock and shepherds and stuff and put on a play about his birth, and our parents would come and video it? Because I did. Here's the thing about Jesus though. He was always weird. It's kind of his thing. Like right from the very beginning, even before he was born, there were these rumors and just a whiff of scandal that seemed to follow his family around. And yeah, okay, everyone thinks their parents are weird, but it's not just his family, it's him. He is strange. Like this one time when he's about 12, his family go to Jerusalem for this big religious festival. They go up to the big city, maybe for a week or something, and Jesus goes missing, and eventually they find him in the temple talking with the priests. And the priests are amazed that this 12-year-old kid knows so much about God. And they meet the parents, Mary and Joseph, who are clearly these rural people, and they go, how does this kid, this carpenter's boy from Nazareth, know so much about God? And they look at each other and they go, he's weird. And it doesn't stop there. The story continues. Yeah, sure, he spends about 20 years maybe doing carpentry and kind of seemingly leading a quiet life. But then he jacks it all in and goes preaching all around the countryside. That's not what carpenters did back in those days. You had to train to be a priest. You couldn't just start doing it. And even then, this is no ordinary preacher, right? This guy is strange. He gets up in people's grills. He says to them things like, you don't know God, you don't love him. You're living for yourself. You're stuck in pride and lies and selfishness. You don't know who God is. He makes people uncomfortable. They see the way that he lives and they kind of want it. They see that God is in him, but that also makes them feel uncomfortable about themselves and their own lives, and they're torn. That Jesus man, he's weird. I don't like him. He builds a small group of friends, really not that many, like less than your nan has on Facebook. And they have a completely different view of Jesus. They see him up close and personal, and they say, I don't know, you should see the way that he prays, the way that he talks about God. He's incredible. I just want to be near to him. He's weird, but I really like him. And so he starts to preach further and further all over, sometimes preaching in the big synagogues in Jerusalem. He's getting pretty famous now. People are starting to know that he's a name in the preaching world, right? But again, he's odd. He picks out strange people, the prostitutes, the irreligious, the immoral, the broken, the disabled. He picks them out. He gives them dignity and value. And he says, you have just as much right to relationship with God as anyone else. Yeah, he's weird, but the poor and the broken seem to adore him. It's not just his teaching either. Weird stuff seems to just keep happening around him. He seems to move in the power of God somehow. When he's around people, they get healed and changed in amazing ways. Their lives are not the same. He goes after the religious, the churchmen, the hypocrites, the people who control people by fear. And he says, you don't love God. You don't know what love is. And all the while he shows love in every word and in every action. He's completely unique, and they hate him for it. He's weird, man. He's dangerous. We need to keep him away from people. I hate him. Let's get rid of him. And so Jerusalem becomes a place that his friends just don't want to go. It becomes a dangerous city for them. And every time they go up there, it just seems to kick off with the most powerful priests, and they're getting way too much attention, and they just want to leave it well alone. But Jesus starts talking about going up there again for Passover. This massive festival, everyone will be there. And Jesus being Jesus, he says weird stuff like how it's his destiny to go there and die. And his friends, they turn to each other and they say, he's weird, man, but I love him. And if he goes, I'm gonna follow him. And so it comes to Passover, the celebration of God rescuing his people from slavery back in the book of Exodus. It's a remembrance of God's goodness, a remembrance that he cares for his people and wants to rescue them. And the tradition was that you would gather with your extended family and people would come to Jerusalem from all across the country. Every guest house would be full, every household would be full, and you would share a lamb. You would sacrifice a lamb. And you didn't have butchers in those days really, so you just do it at home. Just kill a lamb that you had knocking about at home. And so the streets are just running with blood and water right across the city, and the blood and the water, they mingle in the streets with mud, and it's filthy. Jesus' friends are thinking, maybe we can just get in there, celebrate Passover, pray together and just get out, and no one will notice that we're there. But Jesus has other ideas. He makes this massive entrance. He comes in on a donkey. There are crowds lining the roads. They tear branches down off the trees. They wave them and they cry out, "This is the King. Hosanna in the highest. This is God's chosen one. This is the one that we have been waiting for thousands of years. This is him. We adore him." But Jesus, he sees the blood on the ground in the streets, and the air is thick with death. And he weeps for them. He weeps over the crowds who chant his name. That night, he takes his friends to a room above a guest house. And before the meal, he takes their feet in his hands. He takes a bowl of water and he begins to wash the blood and the muck and the filth off their bare feet that they've been walking around on all day. And some of them say, "No, Jesus, what are you doing? You're the King. You don't wash me." And he says, "You don't understand this now, but I'm the only one who can wash you." And so they eat Passover together, and on their plates are thousands of years of Jewish history. And Jesus says to them, "Look at this meal in front of us. This bread that we have always eaten is my body. This wine that we've always drunk, that's my blood." Thousands of years of history and promise are leading us to this moment. I am the King who came to die. They go outside into the darkness, back to their lodgings where they're going to sleep. And on the way, Jesus is betrayed, he's arrested, and overnight, he's tried in a kangaroo court that sentences him to death. Within 24 hours, he has been nailed to a block of wood. A Roman soldier has stuck a spear in his side to make sure that he is dead, and his friends have scattered in disgrace. And just like that, it's all over. He was weird, he was dangerous, but I guess he was never the King.
But the thing about Jesus is, he's not dead. I don't know who you think that Jesus is, but he's definitely not a dead carpenter. He's alive and active in our world, revealing God the Father and changing lives even to this day. And Acts, which begins just 1 month after his death, is the story of how the Jesus explosion began. So get stuck in. You can start by reading Acts chapter 1 verses 1 to 14 and having a look at the discussion questions attached to this video.
So put your cartoon, spiritual guru, bearded, Sunday school, plastic dashboard Jesus in the bin, and let's get to know the real Jesus. This is not the story of a man who taught good things and did good things and died. This is the story of the King.